Here's a little bonus video if you want to improve your jump mechanic for your first-person controller. So here I have my project open inside of Unity, and I'm first going to demonstrate our original jump mechanic. So I'll click play. So here I have my first-person controller, and if I go up this ramp so I can jump across this gap, you'll notice that when I jump across the gap and I release all the keys mid-air, our player will just stop and fall straight down, which isn't that realistic. Instead, what we want is our player to continue moving through the air in the direction that they were traveling when they first jumped. We can also make it so that our player can still slightly control the direction that their character is traveling while up in the air, but we just want to make it a lot less obvious. And so now let me demonstrate what our jump mechanic will look like at the end of this tutorial. So here I have my first-person controller, and when I go up the ramp to jump across the gap, as I press forward and jump across the gap, I'm immediately going to lift up on all the keys, and you'll see that my player object will still continue to move forward. And so here we go. So there we go. I was able to still jump across the gap even though I stopped pressing all the keys. I'm also going to show you how I can now still slightly control the direction of travel while I'm up in the air. And so I'm going to run straight forward, and then I'm going to jump to where there is no platform to land on. But while I'm up in the air, I'm then going to press the A key, which should move me over to the left, and hopefully I'll be able to land on that platform. So here we go. There we go. I was able to move over to the left and land on the platform. Now to modify this jump mechanic, we want to go to our classic FP controller script. Once we're inside the script, the first thing that we need to do is add in these variables. The first one is a private float, which I've made a serialized field, and I've called it jump walk speed. The second one is also a private float serialized field, which I've called jump strafing speed. Once we have these variables created, we then want to scroll down to our player movement function. So the first modification that we'll make to this function is this if statement, where we're checking to see if mycc.isGrounded equals true. And we're adding this if statement around where we're adding the forward and sideways movement to our movement variable. We can then copy this if statement and paste it right below. We're then going to remove the if statement and make it an else statement. We then want to modify each of these lines of code so that rather than multiplying the first line by walk speed, we're multiplying it by jump walk speed. And for the second line of code, rather than multiplying it by strafing speed, we want to multiply it by jump strafing speed. The next thing that we want to do is scroll down to inside this if statement where we're checking to see if our player is grounded. And right inside this if statement, we want to add this line of code. This line of code is jump vector equals vector3.lerp. For the first parameter, we're passing in the jump vector. For the second parameter, we're passing in vector3.0. And for the third parameter, we're passing in 5 times time.delta time. And what this line of code will do is it will make it so that our player does somewhat of a slide when they land right after their jump. We now want to go inside this next if statement where we're checking to see if isJumping is greater than 0. Now isJumping is only set to 0 when we first initially press the space bar. And so inside this if statement, we want to add this line of code where we're setting our jump vector equal to our movement variable. This will take the speed of our player when we initially do the jump and preserve that speed in our jump vector. That speed is then being applied to our character controller only during the duration of the jump, and while that speed is then being lerped back down to 0. Now after all of this, you can then save your script and we'll go back to Unity. Inside Unity, we first just need to set the jump walk speed and the jump strafing speed in the inspector, and then we can test our project. So once again, here I have my first-person controller, and if I go up this ramp, I can then jump across the gap without having to hold down the W key. And right there, you were able to see that our player did somewhat of a slide at the end of the jump. I'm also able to slightly maneuver our player while mid-air. So that's everything that I'm going to cover in this bonus tutorial for the jump mechanic of our classic first-person controller. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And finally, subscribe to our channel so you can be up to date on all our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.